This is the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast, and I'm your host, Trudy Simmons from the Daisy Chain Group, providing platforms for women entrepreneurs to be seen and heard. This platform is for women entrepreneurs that want to hear the real stories of what it takes to be yourself and run a business with all the different hats that you might have to wear. These are the stories of the tenacious, the rebellious, and the resilient women that are working towards the future that they want to build for themselves and their families. Hello and welcome to the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast. And I am very excited to introduce you to Natasha Minchella from The Orchard today. Natasha, thank you so much for joining us. Please tell us about your business.
Oh, you're welcome, Trudy. It's great to be here. I'm excited to chat to you. Well, I am, and don't all run away at this, but I am a corporate and commercial lawyer. And I specialise in helping coaches and mentors and creative entrepreneurs to get all of their essential legal protection in place, basically through their contracts and protecting their intellectual property and getting really great boundaries in place for their business.
I love how exciting you make that sound.
It is. This is the thing, okay? People think about legals and getting their client contract done. And by the way, I am not a kind of nerdy lawyer, but client contract be still my beating heart. Let me tell you, it is just a game changer. That people think that all of this stuff is just the paperwork. It's so much more than the paperwork. It can really change the way you show up in your business. That's why I'm excited about it. Not about drafting the little bits and pieces, but seeing the change it makes in people's businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing you a bit, being a lawyer is a very sensible job. So how did you end up in this corporate environment?
Oh my goodness. Do you know what? Somebody took part in one of my events recently and she called me the least lawyery lawyer ever. And that I take as a huge compliment. Nothing against kind of more traditionally kind of presenting lawyers, if you like, but for me that's a really great compliment. So I'm a creative person. I always say that I'm a creative person who happened to stumble into being a corporate and commercial lawyer, which seems a funny thing to say because when you think of being a corporate lawyer, especially I was trained in the city, so I was in one of those big international city law firms, you know, it's a serious kind of a job. So how on earth can you be stupid enough or whatever, become, you know, stumble into that kind of position? But the thing was, I was a creative person who just didn't think that a really creative career path was available to me.
Yeah.
I just felt like you had to come from, you know, a family that has generations of artists and actors and writers in order to do that kind of thing. And so I went to university. I went to a really good university. I got a great degree in a subject that I loved, which was languages. But I just didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I didn't have the guts or the belief or even the hope to think that I might have a really creative job, career, make money out of it. And so I was just looking for something to do until I found my real passion. Oh. And my dad said to me, oh, Natasha, why don't you go into the law? This is how he said it. Why don't you go into the law? You know, women do very well in the law and it's reasonably well remunerated. That's what he said. And I thought, oh God, that doesn't sound the most exciting thing in the world, but I'll give it a go. I'll do it for the time being. Let's see if I manage to get a job. And that was it. I was then on that path.
Yeah. You talk about reaching rock bottom. So that, and when you got there, asking yourself what you wanted your life and career to look like. But firstly, why does it take us to reach these depths? And secondly, what did you do at that stage?
Yeah, so I felt like I couldn't, once I got that position and that job and that decent way, that reasonable remuneration, as my dad said, it was really difficult to step off that path. And I did dabble in a few other really interesting things along the way, but I never felt I could completely leave the law behind. And then I split up from my first husband, who was a musician. And I felt like, although he'd been a very successful musician, I didn't feel able to rely on that. And I felt like I needed to know that I could bring in what I needed to bring in to support me and my children. And I also didn't feel it was right just to expect him to kind of cover the bills and do everything. I felt like, well, you know, I have got a profession, I can do this. And so that just kind of kept me in for longer and longer until I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it. And at that stage, I thought, I've got to do something else. Got to. Otherwise, I'm not going to be functioning anymore.
So what did you do? Did you then decide to go out by yourself? Did you?
I cried a lot. Yeah. I cried a lot, including at my desk in the law firm on a few occasions. And they kind of go, let's give Tash a bit of space this morning, as I was sitting there sobbing into my tea. And I went on a year, it was back in 2015, and I just went on this year of self-discovery. And I couldn't find any women in business that in the UK that were kind of championing a way of life and business that I really related to. So actually it started, it was still reasonably early days in Instagram, and I was on Instagram and I just started to see more creative, soul-led, if you like, soul-centered women entrepreneurs in the US. That I started to follow, and that gave me a little bit of hope, and the sorts of things they were talking about made sense to me, and I understood their language and their approach and their energy. And what happened was, one of those people was Danielle Laporte, and she had this desire map system at the time, and she was just starting to license people in other countries to use her system. And so the first person who became licensed to use her desire map system in the UK, I happened to find out as soon as she was licensed. And she was running, you know, her first workshop in London, and I just thought, I'm going. I know nothing about her or anything. I told my husband, he thought I was absolutely bonkers. I said, I'm going to do a desire map workshop in Tooting, I'm off. And that was the start of the journey, really. And then at the same time, I did Marie Forleo's B School. And after I'd done that first desire map workshop, then there was another desire map workshop, which I went on. And that was, I mean, it had a massive epiphany at that workshop. And on and by this stage, I've been through kind of 10 months of soul searching, exploring, and thinking what I wanted my life to look like. And at the end of that second design map workshop, on the Monday, I went in and I handed in my notice at my corporate job, and I drove home and I sobbed with relief and joy. It was the most amazing feeling. The person who led that workshop became my first client. And she was a coach.
Yeah. But what I love about that story is that you having such a corporate and lawyery head on your shoulders, obviously, but always searching for this creative outlet, this creative way of being in the world, and combining law and creativity sounds crazy. And then you meet you. But so how are you now doing that? Because you are.
Well, okay, there's two main things. I mean, the first one I would say, for me, underpinning everything, and I know that you get this, is it's all about the energy. So I bring my creative energy to how I talk about the law, how I talk about contracts, how I explain things to people, you know, the language I use, all of that. And so my clients really get that. And for the first time, they don't see it as this heavy, scary, horrible thing. And they love that energy, and they talk about that a lot. So that's the main thing I would say, really, is the energy I bring to it, the way I talk about it. And the fact that the way that I talk about the healthy boundaries and the sorts of language and values that businesses of our type in our sector, because I definitely count myself in as one of those types of businesses that people relate to and they really get it.
But what you've also done is made the law accessible.
Yeah.
And I know that you've got the online community with the Orchard for coaches and also for anybody else in business, where it's an accessible way of getting what you need to make your business legally sound. And I think for a lot of years, if you wanted any of this stuff, you had to go and pay a proper lawyer. I'm kidding. And you had to go and pay a lawyer to write these contracts individually for each of us. And it was a lot of investment for a small business. So it wasn't being done. And I think part of your creativity is the fact that you have pulled those things together and made it fun. Look,
right. Do you know what? That means so much to me. It's also made me a little bit teary because, do you know what? I'm really proud of it. I'm really, really proud of it. And it's taken a long time to get to this place, but there are very few professionals and ex-corporate lawyers that have even attempted to make this kind of jump. It's still quite unusual. And I think what I've done is innovative, and I am really proud of it. So thank you for mentioning that. I appreciate that.
If there was one lesson that you wanted other entrepreneurs to know, what would it be?
Oh, well, I know we hear it all the time, but honestly, it's so true. So true, which is, don't wait until everything's perfect. Just get started in a messy way. And sometimes the way doesn't seem that clear, but if you get a gut feeling to do something, I would always say follow your gut, because when I look back, you know, at the time there were decisions I made that felt a bit funky and a bit weird, and halfway through a thing I've signed up for, a course or something, I think, oh God, why have I done this? This is not right. But it always leads to people and ideas and networks and things. And then when you move ahead and you look back and you see how it all connects together, oh my God, there's a magic in that. And it really puts the kind of hairs on the back of my neck up when I think about that. So just keep me moving forward in that messy kind of way. Get your stuff out there. Don't overthink it and just get moving.
Yeah. That's so perfect, because my chapter in this book is about hindsight. And until we can look back, even in the crappy things that we think we're stuck in, there's always a reason that we're doing them. So
true. So true.
What's your favorite piece of business software?
Okay. I love systems and processes. I'm always on the lookout for the perfect software. And actually, I know that you know this. For any task that you're doing, in many instances, there isn't a perfect piece of software. However, there will be different types of software that go about it in a different way. And for me, one of the main steps forward in my business was when I moved everything onto Kajabi. Now, I'm not saying Kajabi is necessarily any better than Teachable or anything else of that nature, but for me, it's a platform that did various things. And what that meant was that I felt in control, because before then I had various people and VAs helping me put together different things, and the way they connected was really quite complex, and I'm not an overtly techie person, and it terrified me. And one of the things that I was using at the time was ClickFunnels. Now, ClickFunnels is perfect for certain people, not for me. And genuinely, I would say that because of the way that my mind didn't really like and react well with ClickFunnels, I think it probably held my business back by about 6 months, you know. And in the end, I got some help with someone who could work out ClickFunnels and connect it with other things. That was all fine. But then she went traveling for 3 months when I was just about to do my second launch. And I was left back, me and ClickFunnels, you know, it was horrible. And so moving to Kajabi, my brain just understands Kajabi, and I feel in control. Like if somebody were to leave my team and go away again for 3 months, I'd be able to muddle through. And so I think that's the thing, find the piece of kit that works for you. And I ended up with ClickFunnels because a mentor had recommended it to me, and I should have known when I did the trial. I just didn't like it.
Natasha, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for being involved in the book. I think you have proved that having a personality and having your personality shine through really does help with any business that you've got. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Trudy.
Thank you so much for watching the Shine On You Crazy Daisy podcast. If you've liked what you've seen today, then please make sure that you click the subscribe button to this channel to see more inspiration and motivation as more of these stories keep coming out. And if you want even more, click on the link below this video and go and have a look at the series of books Shine On You Crazy Daisy and get even more inspiration and motivation for you and your business.